On November 9th, 1970, the carcass of an 8-ton, 45-foot-long sperm whale washed up on the beach near the small town of Florence, Oregon. For the next several days, the whale sat undisturbed on the shore while its rotting flesh sent a putrid cloud into the air. As local KATU news anchor Paul Linnman said at the time, the Oregon State Highway Department, quote, not only had a whale of a problem on its hands, it had a stinking whale of a problem. Obviously, they couldn't just leave the whale on the beach, but what could they do with it? This was the question that they had to grapple with. Meanwhile, officials worried that the longer the whale sat on the beach, the more dangerous the situation could become. What if, for example, someone tried to climb on top of the whale and fell into it? A number of solutions were offered, but each seemed more implausible than the last. They could bury the whale, some said, but that would be a monumental task. Besides, would it even be effective? Wouldn't the whale's decaying flesh simply become exposed again shortly afterward? Then there were those who suggested cutting the whale's carcass into pieces after relieving the methane pressure with incisions, but this came with its own set of problems, namely that nobody seemed eager to do it. But thankfully, Assistant District Highway Engineer George Thornton finally came up with a creative solution for what to do with the whale. Blow it up. And as ridiculous as that may sound, it was precisely the course of action that the authorities decided to take. But they couldn't just strap some dynamite to the whale, press a button, and call it a day. Thornton wanted to do it safely and ideally with as little mess as possible. He contacted munitions experts from the U.S. Navy who helped him determine the amount of explosives required for this bold approach. Then Thornton had the explosives positioned on the side of the whale nearer to the dunes, hoping that the force of the blast would send the dead whale soaring in the opposite direction out into the ocean. Any remaining whale chunks on the beach, they figured, would simply be eaten by seagulls and other scavengers. With the plan in place, the explosion was set for November 12th. That afternoon, crowds, officials, and reporters gathered on the beach in anticipation of a one-of-a-kind spectacle. Thornton cleared a quarter-mile perimeter around the whale to keep onlookers at a safe distance from the explosion, but he had no idea just how far those whale chunks would truly fly. In all, 20 cases of dynamite were used to blow up the whale. Those in attendance watched in awe as the explosion went off and the whale erupted into a blubbery blast. Then the crowd's fascination immediately turned to horror as massive chunks of flesh started raining down upon them. In the words of newscaster Paul Linnman, the blast blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds. You're listening to History Uncovered, brought to you by the digital publisher All That's Interesting, where we explore the uncharted corners of the natural world and the world past. I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Austin Harvey.
And I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Kalina Fraga.
And today we're diving into the strange story of Florence, Oregon's infamous exploding whale.
It had to be said, the Oregon State Highway Division not only had a whale of a problem on its hands, it had a stinking whale of a problem. What to do with one 45-foot, 8-ton whale dead on arrival on the beach near Florence.
Yeah, so it's so funny when you brought this up last week. So you were originally thinking this was like a whale that was full of gas or something that blew up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which does happen sometimes. They do blow up sometimes.
It does happen. And yeah, we actually have a few examples I'll bring up later on of times where that did happen. You kind of forget that like living things are full of a bunch of methane gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was to ramble here at the start. I was diving in the other day to looking into like cases of spontaneous human combustion.
Oh, there's some. We have that on the site.
Yeah. In a lot of instances, people think it's because everything's so full of methane gas. That's why you can like not, to de-age myself a little bit here. That's why you can light a fart on fire.
Oh. Makes sense.
It's the reason. Yeah. But that is not what happened in this case. So to just get into it here, a whale washed up on November 9th, 1970 on a beach in Florence, Oregon. They estimated this whale to weigh roughly 8 tons. It measured more than 45 feet long.
Wow.
And basically they, as reporters at the time said, had a stinking whale of a problem on their hands. Because, what do you do? This is a massive thing.
Yeah, 8 tons. I can't even imagine how much that is. That's a lot.
It's like 4 elephants.
Yeah. Wow.
That's how I measure tons in my head still. I know an elephant weighs roughly 2 tons.
Oh.
I don't know why I know that. It's like a fact that stuck with me since I was a kid.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah. So, it's like 4 elephants. I mean, 45 feet long. This is like, it's a massive thing. So obviously they were kind of stuck wondering, what do we do about this?
They said it had been a while since this had happened. They kind of forgotten how to deal with whales.
I mean, do you just get everybody in town to push it back? Like, that's
I would
crazy.
think that maybe like back in the day, they would have used the whale, like the blubber or something, perhaps.
Yeah, make some blubber nuggets.
Yeah, or like candles. I don't know.
Yeah. What do they use whale blubber for?
Primary ingredients: soap, margarine, and oil burning lamps.
Margarine?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Margarine being like, I can't believe it's not butter.
I guess. Yeah.
Like cooking margarine. That's crazy. I'm going to have to go look at, actually, I don't think I have any margarine in the house.
To check if there's whale blubber in it.
I was going to look, see if whale blubber was an ingredient.
Have you ever heard of ambergris, I think is how it's pronounced?
No.
It's like whale, like, it's not exactly vomit, but it's like something the whale excretes usually when they're dying. But anyway, when it washes up on shore, it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars because it's used in perfumes.
Weird.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Very weird.
This is all to say that there's a lot of purposes for a dead whale, possibly.
Yeah. Right. But it was already dead when it washed up, which is also part of the issue.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of starting to decompose.
Oh, stinky.
Which is. Yeah, it smells bad. I mean, it's massive. It smells. It's going to attract
scavengers.
Scavengers. Thank you. It's like carnivores.
Probably carnivores.
Predators. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it eventually came down to like they knew they had to get the whale off the beach.
Yeah.
And one engineer with the Department of Transportation, his name was George Thornton, decided that they could blow the whale up.
I wonder why the Department of Transportation was the one that got involved in this and not like,
I guess,
just like the garbage department, sanitation, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I wonder if like public beaches and parks fall under the Department of Transportation's jurisdiction.
Maybe. That's curious.
Because sanitation.
Yeah, it's more garbage. I thought maybe the whale would be considered like waste and how to get rid of waste.
Yeah. Also, the Department of Transportation probably has more engineers readily available who can like think of other ways to do this.
Right. And have the tools.
Like dynamite.
Necessary. Exactly. Yeah.
Like dynamite. Yeah. My favorite part is later on, he told an interviewer he wasn't actually sure how much dynamite they would need to blow this whale up. And Thornton he was like an assistant engineer or like a lower level employee, middle management, I think. He wasn't like upper brass.
Yeah.
But his supervisor was out hunting. So it basically fell onto him to take care of this.
He's like, I can't be bothered with this. I'm out hunting. I'm sure you can handle it, Thornton.
He's like, what's going on? It's like, we got a whale on the beach. Imagine coming back, though. Imagine coming back to that.
Yeah.
They're like, I was gone for like 4 days. What happened?
A lot.
Yeah. And then at the same time, they had this reporter who's like an important part of the story. His name's Paul Linnman, who was basically tasked with covering this story by his editor or producer, I guess, because he was an anchor, not a writer. So his producer asked him to come out and cover the story. And at first he was kind of offended by that because he was like, oh, I'm such a good reporter. I'm way too good of a journalist. This is like below my pay grade. And then they were like, no, Paul, they're going to blow it up with dynamite. And he was like, oh,
he was like, oh, okay. Then. Fantastic.
Yeah, let's check it out. So he went out and reported on this story. George Thornton was talking with somebody, a former military veteran who had explosives training and basically told him, yeah, you probably only need about 20 sticks of dynamite to blow this thing. The plan was to ignite an explosion that would effectively like launch the whale back into the ocean. So they weren't looking to like blow the whale up as much as they were looking to just generate enough force to push it off the beach.
Okay. Interesting.
So the amount of force required to do that would have only been like 20 sticks of dynamite. That would have generated a large enough explosion that it would have knocked the whale back into the water. And that's all they needed to do.
Would have been a sight to see watching the whale fly back into the water.
I mean, in theory, it's a good idea. Just kind of like, and then it plops back and you're like, cool, that's taken care of. And then the ocean will do what it does. Except George Thornton used not 20 sticks of dynamite. He used 20 cases
Whew.
That's
a lot of dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some might say too much dynamite.
Some might say that.
They lined it all up on the side of the whale that was, still doing what they were planning to do, trying to push it back into the water. So it was all lined up on the side of the whale where the ocean was not, on the land side of the whale.
Right, pushing it back toward the waves. Yeah.
Pushing it towards the ocean, trying to paint a clear picture. It wasn't totally surrounded by dynamite. They weren't like stuffing dynamite in the whale, but it was just a lot of dynamite.
Yeah. They got trigger happy, it sounds like.
Yeah. It was the 4th of July in November. So 3 days after it washed up. So this is November 12th, 1970 at around 3:45 p.m. They detonated the dynamite. And this has maybe my favorite quote in all of journalistic history. Paul Linnman, who was there on the scene as the whale was exploded, said, "The landlubber newsmen became land blubber newsmen for the blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds."
That's good. I wonder if he came up with that at this. Was it off the cuff?
That's what I don't know. I mean,
or if he was like, "Oh, what could I say?"
He said it at the scene, live reporting.
Yeah.
So either he thought ahead of time, "Oh, this will be really good," and memorized it. I in my head canon, it's off the cuff because that's just amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty. I like that.
If he had been born 20 years later, he could have been an amazing rapper.
Blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds. Yeah.
That's a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister. Land blubber newsman. Yeah, that's good. I like it. Blasted blubber.
That's pretty good.
Blasted blubber.
It's pretty good. Blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds. It's it's not quite as difficult as she sells seashells by the seashore.
Yeah. Is it Sally sells seashells by the seashore? Does she have a name?
Sally sells. I don't know. I always just thought it was she. She sells because then you
sells seashells.
She sells seashells.
Yeah.
That one I have to think about still. I have to
That was a little harder. We have more of the consonants in blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds.
Yeah. Blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds is more along the lines of Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Thank God I have this pop filter on my mic. Otherwise that would just.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So basically this whale blew up. It was a huge explosion. It blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds.
Yeah, except that description's a little bit inaccurate because the whale mostly remained intact. Oh. I mean, you think 20 cases of dynamite, that's I'm expecting a whale smoothie at the end of this. Just liquefy it.
Right. I mean, I've only seen dynamite in action in Tom and Jerry cartoons,
Right.
And it usually does the trick.
Yeah. So. And cartoons are known for being hyper realistic.
Especially about, dynamite. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I tried to drop a piano on my friend's head once to see if it would accordion him. And he said, "No, don't. You'll kill me." And but yeah. So no, the whale did not just become liquid or any small chunks of viscera. It was mostly intact still, but it did get sky high pieces of it.
Yeah.
Large pieces of it.
Huge pieces of it.
Enough to crush a car, which did happen. This one witness, this man named Kelly Umenhofer, who was there, his father had just purchased a car from a nearby dealership called Olds Dunham Cadillac. Yeah, his car was just totally crushed when whale pieces landed on it. And the best part of that is the slogan for the Cadillac place was, "Come on in and we'll give you a whale of a deal."
Nice.
So, yep.
Wow. I wonder.
They definitely did.
They definitely did. When I watched the footage, people were sitting pretty close to the whale. And then.
Yeah, they sectioned off an area, but it wasn't far off.
No, it was raining around them. They weren't far enough away.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
So they got lucky that no one got crushed.
It was a 1/4 mile perimeter around the whale.
Yeah, that seems not far enough.
No.
Especially if their idea was to blast it back into the ocean and far enough that it would stay in the ocean. That seems like people should also be. I guess they didn't know it would go that direction, but.
Yeah, they kind of expected it all to fly out towards the ocean, not straight up.
Right. Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. Luckily, nobody was hurt in this story. I mean, the guy's car was crushed, but the state of Oregon footed the bill for it. They paid him back.
I guess it was the Department of Transportation who was at fault. So I guess that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like there was a sign that says like no parking here, whale explosion in progress or anything.
Whale explosion possible at any time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I totally forgot about this. So they expected to blow it into the ocean, obviously not in one piece, but they kind of expected that the remaining pieces would then be picked up by seagulls or other scavengers. Mm-hmm. None of them showed up because the explosion was so loud. It scared them all away.
Too scary. That's one of the funniest parts. Like the seagulls were like circling overhead and they're like, "Ooh, a whale." And then it just goes, like, "Oh no.
And they're like,
fly away."
Yeah. I mean, basically everything went wrong with this scenario. Mm-hmm. Other than the fact that nobody died, which is the one saving grace they had.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, the local paper, the Register Guard, interviewed George Thornton, and he said it went just exactly right.
Oh, did it?
Except the blast funneled a hole in the sand under the whale, which is apparently why some of it blasted back towards the onlookers.
So it didn't go exactly right then?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it went exactly right.
If you have whale blubber falling on people and crushing a car, and the whale is mostly intact afterwards, then I think those are all reasons to say it went a little bit wrong.
Right. I mean, if you have one goal and you do not achieve that goal, you can't say something went right.
Yeah. I mean, the whale blew up like a little bit, though, so I guess he gets...
Yeah. I mean, they no longer had the full carcass of a whale on the beach.
They still had a pretty big chunk of carcass of whale on the beach.
Yeah. It's semantics, I think, is what it comes down to. It's like, well, your goal was to blast it back into the ocean, right? And he's like, no. Our goal was to not have a full whale body on the beach. And they're like, well, all right, technically.
Yeah, spread around that blubber, dying whale smell all over Florence, Oregon.
I mean, you have to imagine it smelled bad, especially like when that explosion went. It's probably smelled bad beforehand. But
yeah. I mean, think of like finding
adding
a
the
dead
heat.
Fish. That smells horrible.
Yeah.
And it's 45 feet long. It's been there for 3 days.
Or like, and then combine that with like the smell of like fireworks in the air.
Yeah. Charred whale carcass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not great. Not great.
Yeah. George Thornton really never talked about it much after the fact, other than that one interview. Naturally, he was kind of embarrassed by it. Mm-hmm. But like 20 years later in the mid-1990s, Linnman did contact him again. And Thornton said that overall, he stuck by it. He said he believed it was a success, that it was turned into a PR disaster by the press.
Oh, well.
So in his mind,
stick to your guns.
At least publicly. Yeah. He's like, no, it was fine. It wasn't that big a deal. You guys just blew it out of proportion.
Yeah. Hey. Wow.
The sand dunes there were covered with spectators and land lubber newsmen, shortly to become land blubber newsmen, where the blast blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds.
Thankfully, the footage of it lived on. I mean, you said you were just watching.
I was.
The report on it.
It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And so amazing that people, when they saw it resurface later on, like early 2000s, when it first made its way onto the internet, people actually thought it was a hoax. No one thought it was real.
Yeah, I can see why, because everything about it seems so unnecessary and strange.
Yeah. It seems like a comedy sketch.
Right. Well, especially the reporter, busting rhymes on,
That's what I mean, yeah. Like, that's why it's so amazing if that was off the cuff.
Right.
Because it really does. It really feels like an I Wish You Would Leave or whatever. What's that Netflix sketch comedy show?
I Think You Should Leave.
I Think You Should Leave. It feels like a sketch out of that.
He had to at least come up with it pretty fast because the blubber, like, it was a kind of a disaster beyond all believable bounds. So he had to...
I wonder if he, like... it's like a quirk of his. He's like, when something just so amazing happens, he's just...
he loves to...
Oh my God, the blast blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds.
Maybe he only spoke in alliterations. And this is just the one time it got captured on camera.
be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah, the story, I mean, kind of disappeared. They did, as we talked about prior to recording, the people of Florence, Oregon did name a park in honor of the whale.
Yeah.
The Exploding Whale Memorial Park.
It's so funny and weird. I was just saying, like, I'm from
great.
Washington State, so I'm allowed to make fun of, well, maybe I'm not. I don't know. People in Oregon are just funny to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's pretty cute. The picture is cute. I think it's of the mayor standing next to the sign.
Yeah.
And he's like pointing at it. It's poor whale, but.
Yeah. Well, they voted on that in 2022, so that was a relatively recent thing. Then, the story, like I said, it took place, this happened in 1970, the end of 1970. In the 90s is when it sort of first became big again. This writer for the Miami Herald named Dave Barry got a hold of the footage and then reported on it 20 years later, like, whoa, look at this crazy thing that happened that nobody knows about. It made national headlines. But Dave Barry forgot to mention that the footage was 20 years old.
Oh, huh.
And
Important.
A lot of people were very angry about what happened and started calling the Oregon Department of Transportation to ask and complain about the event.
What were they angry about exactly?
I think just that it was dangerous, that it was like distasteful. I really don't know, but people get angry over very
That's true.
strange things at times.
Maybe they're mad about like the
but
whale. I don't know. They thought the whale was alive or something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be any number of things, but they were calling in and complaining about it. And then the Department of Transportation, they'd be like, yeah, no, that happened 20 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And now you can watch 4K footage of it in 2020 on the 50th anniversary of the event. The local station KATU pulled the original 16 millimeter footage and remastered it in 4K.
Amazing.
So yeah, for anyone curious, if you want to see the whale explode, it is out there in glorious high resolution.
The internet's an amazing thing.
It really is. We were talking about time capsules last time, and I'm like, this is sort of like a living time capsule almost.
Oh yeah.
This footage.
Sure. Captures a moment.
Because I mean, it was just like news archival footage. It could have disappeared, but it lived on.
I mean, it's true. Even watching the reporter and he's like the 70s kind of hair and like a brown suit and everything. You're like, yeah, this feels. Surprised people in the 90s thought it was recent because it has like very 70-ish vibes to me.
Yeah. I wonder if they didn't even see the footage because Dave Barry wrote about it.
I see.
Saying that he had the footage, but I don't think he released it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it made its way onto the internet in the early 2000s, but in the 90s, I think it was just people reading about what he saw in the footage.
Well, you should, you being people listening, should Google it or YouTube it or whatever. And like, it is something to see. Yeah.
It's a spectacle.
It's a spectacle. Yeah. For sure.
Lesson learned.
They don't do that anymore. They don't explode whales in Oregon. Now they bury them, which was funny.
Well, funnily enough, they do sometimes still blow up whales.
Do they?
Maybe not in America, not in Oregon. From what I was reading online, I'm fairly certain that there are certain places where they will put the whale basically like on a barge and send it out into the ocean and then blow it up. But I don't know how common that is.
Wow. It just feels like I guess that's, once it's on a barge in the ocean, it feels like it'd be easy just to dump its body back into the ocean.
Right. The dynamite seems kind of extraneous there.
It does, yeah.
Unless they're afraid that it'll like catch a current and come back to shore again.
Yeah.
I don't know how far out they're taking it.
Yeah. I don't know either. Not my area of expertise here. Yeah. Whale disposal.
Not something I really had to think about much here in Pittsburgh. We're not getting whales washing up any of the three rivers, so.
I've seen whales from where I'm from, but never a dead whale, thankfully.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to see a dead one. Ugh.
No, can't imagine this pleasant.
No, it sounds like they stink and they're really hard to get rid of. Yeah.
Evidently.
Our camera stopped rolling immediately after the blast. The humor of the entire situation suddenly gave way to a run for survival as huge chunks of whale blubber fell everywhere. Pieces of meat passed high over our heads while others were falling at our feet. The dunes were rapidly evacuated as spectators escaped both the falling debris and the overwhelming smell.
There were other whales have exploded. These were purposely exploded in history. It sounded like pretty recently.
There's kind of a mix. Some of these were intentional, some of these were not. But yeah, I do have a few more recent examples here of other explosions. One from January 24th, 2004 in Tainan City, Taiwan. This is sort of what you were thinking of. A whale exploded due to a buildup of gas inside its decomposing body. It was a sperm whale that had washed ashore. The weird thing about that was that the explosion happened in its spine, not in its stomach, which is, you'd kind of expect it to happen in the stomach, where that's where the gas would be. But, experts who had to then remove the carcass after the fact said that they think what happened was that like a boat hit the whale in the spine and broke it, and that was what killed it. And that was also why that is where the gas kind of exploded.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like in like ancient times being a person on a beach and seeing a whale explode? Like what you would think, what you would make of that?
Just like,
yeah.
That's how gods were born.
Sure, yeah. Definitely.
You go back to the village and you're like, I don't know what we did. Someone's angry.
Yeah.
Let's kill a virgin.
Yes, you do.
Maybe this will stop because the whales are exploding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. In that case, too, the whale didn't even explode on the beach. It washed ashore and it was dead. And they used 3 cranes and roughly 50 people working together to load this whale onto the back of a truck.
Wow.
So that they could drive it elsewhere. They were trying to get it to the Sitsao Wildlife Reservation, where it was going to be examined it was examined at the National Chenkang University. They were transporting it to this wildlife reservation area, and it was en route. It exploded in the back of the truck.
Ugh. Again, can you imagine being like the guy behind the truck or like the guy driving past it?
Yeah. It's terrifying. No one was hurt in this instance either, but it covered people on the street and shop windows and cars in guts and blubber and entrails and blood. Imagine just walking, like you're on your lunch break, about to go get a coffee, and then you just get covered in whale guts.
Yeah. Okay. That's horrible. I was gonna say that sounds like my new like worst nightmare, but I was like, that's never gonna happen, probably.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
Weird stuff happens in New York all the time.
We are on the water. Like there are whales, I think.
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
It comes back to my mantra, never go outside. It's just better that way. Funnily enough, the remains of that whale are actually on display at the Taijiang KATU Museum. So they've been on display since April of 2005. So if you ever find yourself in Taiwan.
Its remains? I wonder what was left of the whale.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure we could find a picture of it. Oh, yeah, there's a photo of it. Oh, no, that's its penis.
Oh.
It was a photo of somebody like with the whale on the truck, and they were like holding something up above their head.
Oh.
And then I highlighted it, and the alt text for the image was the whale penis. Oh, there are photos of it on the street, though. You can see like where it burst open and everything.
Oh, I want to see. Oh, so interesting. Didn't really is this after the explosion?
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah, so it didn't really like explode as much as it kind of like popped.
Yeah, I was imagining like the explosion like in Oregon, like the kind of big explosion.
No.
This was like sort of like, part of it sort of like burst like a
balloon or like a sack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the whale's still fully intact. There's just a big gash
you can
with
see
like
its big tail and everything.
The shining elevator levels of blood pouring out of it.
That's gross.
Yeah, it's really
now
nasty.
I understand.
Oh yeah, there's like photos.
Okay.
Oh my God, there's photos of like the cleanup crew and everything. Wow, there's a lot of photos of this.
Wow.
Let's see, that was 2004. There was another one that I found in January 2011. Whale washed ashore near Moby's Pub in Ganges Harbor on Salt Spring Island, British Columbia, Canada. Moby's
That's
Pub.
Funny. Wow, if I was Moby's Pub, I would never let that die. I'd like lean into that so hard. I don't know how, but I would.
An author named David Spalding did write about that incident. He said its blubber hung in the trees for weeks.
Ew. Gross.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do have a note about it here. Other whale carcasses are frequently exploded, though they're usually taken out of the sea first. This happens a lot in South Africa, Iceland, and Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what the justification for it is still, but it does happen.
That's strange.
You could still go out and watch a whale detonation if you really wanted to.
God. It's funny. I always thought like whales would die and kind of just like sink to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. I guess that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But if they're close enough to shore and there's a strong enough current.
Yeah. I guess whales get like beached every now and then too.
Yeah.
It's not on purpose.
At least we're not blowing those ones up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. We try to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this one.
It's just a really weird story.
It's a very strange, it's kooky.
I love that. I don't know how big Florence, Oregon is, but I imagine it's probably a little on the small side.
Oh, probably.
And
yeah.
I think it's funny. People like first the locals came to look at the whale because it was like a whale on the beach. And that's a weird thing.
Right.
And then they came because it was going to get blown up and they all kind of like gathered. And I just like the idea of this whole town kind of descending to watch this thing happen and then be like, oh my God, there's blubber like raining down on us.
Yeah. What's the population? 8,921 as of 2020. So it's probably
small.
Less.
Yeah.
Back then. Yeah. But yeah, small town. I mean, I'm looking at their Wikipedia page right now and it is literally like, the Florence area was originally inhabited by the Siuslaw tribe of Native Americans. Claims about who it might have been named after, and then just the whole section on the exploding whale.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what Florence, Oregon is known for.
Their claim to fame, exploding whale. Huh.
Could be worse. It's a very pretty looking city. Looks very nice.
Where in Oregon is it?
Directly west of Eugene. It is like, it's along the coast. Mm-hmm. There's Coos Bay, Bandon to the south, Newport and Lincoln City to the north.
Okay, well, it's near Eugene that I have an idea of where it is.
Yeah, Eugene, there's Salem. It's like southwest of Portland.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Right by the Siuslaw National Forest. Kind of like directly in the middle of the state, but on the coast.
Yeah.
But like north to south, directly in the middle.
Uh-huh. Well, I wonder if a whale will ever wash up there again.
Yeah, I wonder like how often do whales wash ashore? Can't be that frequently, right?
I don't think so. I think all the factors would have to be right for it to happen.
Since early 2019, 303 gray whale strandings have been reported in the United States. If you include Mexico and Canada, that comes up to 608.
Did you say strandings? Is that what the word was?
Yeah.
Does that mean they're dead or that they got stuck?
Dead. Yeah, this is from NPR. The title of the article is An Unusually High Number of Whales Are Washing Up on U.S. Beaches.
Oh, so then it's high in that year.
In 2019 alone, 122 gray whales died in the U.S. by washing up on shore.
Wow.
Oh, this is a recent article, too. This is from February of this year.
That seems bad.
Yeah. Last year. So it is actually fairly frequent then. But I guess more frequent now than it's ever been before. So that's upsetting.
On the Oregon Historical Society site, they said the current policy of the Oregon State Parks Department is to bury whale carcasses and they wash ashore. Dynamite is no longer needed.
Good.
Yeah. So it'll never happen again in Florence, Oregon.
Good. Yeah. It seems like it's an East Coast problem now.
Oh.
It might be concluded that should a whale ever wash ashore in Lane County again, those in charge will not only remember what to do, they'll certainly remember what not to do.
If anyone listening has a whale story, has a good story about a whale they want to share with us, send a little email over to podcast@allthat'sinteresting.com. Let us know about your whale stories or call in and tell us about it.
If you want to call and leave a voicemail about a whale, you can call us at 929-526-3029.
Leave us a voice whale.
A voice whale. Yeah. No sad whale stories, though. I don't want to hear those. Do you want to hear the sad ones? That's fine.
I don't know.
I just hate, I don't know. Ugh, I don't like that stuff.
Did you watch Free Willy? That's about a killer whale.
No.
That's an orca anyway.
No.
Don't watch it then.
To. No plans
Did you ever watch Blackfish?
No, I can't. I guess it's too upsetting.
Yeah, that one's rough. I know. I had to relive that trauma like 3 different times for work. I had to write about it. I watched it. I got amnesia. Watched it again. No, I had to write about Tillicum and Don Brancho recently for work. And I was like, man, it's been 10 years since I saw Blackfish. I didn't want to have to feel all this again.
Yeah. It's upsetting. Yeah. Don't love that stuff. I try to avoid it if I can.
That's fair. I mean, I don't really know any other like famous whale stories. There's Moby Dick, Pinocchio.
Mm-hmm. The Bible one.
Sure.
I can't remember what it was. You know, the one where Jonah and the whale, he gets swallowed by the whale.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that just Pinocchio?
We did have an article, I think it was last year or the year before, where this like guy was scuba diving or fishing and a whale, he says, swallowed him. And he was in the whale's like mouth for like a couple of minutes. And then the whale spat him
That's terrifying.
out. Yeah.
Out the blowhole?
No, the whale would like.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Not as exciting then.
Not quite as exciting, no. But.
Because that'd be crazy.
That would be pretty nuts.
But he had no proof, though. He just said this.
So he had no proof, but his buddy was on a boat. And his buddy said that he watched him like shoot out of the water after the whale like spat him up.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah. I can't remember his name, but it was one of our news stories we covered at some point.
Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
So it can happen. And now orcas are getting like really like aggressive. We don't really know why. And they're like battering boats and stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's getting kind of crazy. I keep seeing news stories about that popping up.
Yeah, they're teaching
like I feel like every week someone else is like, more orcas are getting angry. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. Those are that's what we see near my parents' house are orcas. Not like very often, but
yeah,
every now and then.
They're very cool.
They're very cool. Killer whales, though.
Yeah. Maybe they got a hold of a copy of Blackfish.
Maybe.
They were like, what?
Yeah, we'll show them. Yeah. Oh. Well, yeah. I think that's that.
Yeah.
We've had a whale of time talking to you today.
We've had a whale of a time. Yeah. Let us know if you've had a whale of a time. Let us know if we didn't take this one seriously enough. If we giggled too much during this episode.
Yeah, I can think our next one is History Happy Hour. No?
That is next, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, tune in next week. We're doing our monthly history roundup show, History Happy Hour. We're going to be talking about some news stories that we covered this month in the realm of history and some historical anniversaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In July, July is a big month for historical anniversaries.
I bet it is.
Probably.
I don't know what they are yet, but I bet there are. I bet some things happen.
Stay tuned next week.
Yeah.
You'll find out.
And you'll find out.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And as always, check out the website, allthat'sinteresting.com, where we have articles relating to everything that we talk about on this podcast.
Mm-hmm. You can become a member at allthat'sinteresting.com/membership. Or you can join our newsletter by going to allthat'sinteresting.com/sign-up.
And there you go.
And there you go.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Talk to everyone next week.